Everybody's coming into the chat. I'm super pumped for this today. I actually just finished a podcast with Dr. Daniel Pompa. If you're not familiar with Daniel Pompa, he's written some amazing books on cellular health and fasting. It seems like this is like the month of fasting because I actually just got back from. I know I put this into the rule breakfast. Some of you guys have been watching some of the videos I do for you behind the scenes. I also met with Dr. Valter Longo, who's arguably the world's leading authority on fasting, and he is he runs the Longevity Center at University of Southern California, Davis, and he also just completed one of the largest human clinical trials ever on fasting. And he had a 500 patient population that he did fasting for Alzheimer's, one for dementia, and one for type 2 diabetes. And his words, not mine, these diseases are reversible. And he said he declares that on the podcast, and he says that he's proved it through fasting. And he has a fast mimicking diet. So, and then I had Dr. Pompa on today. These are going to be like two podcasts you definitely do not want to miss. I mean, these are world authorities on just the power of fasting. So I'm excited to get together with the Rule Breakfast today. It's a beautiful day. Miami, look at that. Gorgeous out there today. We just had the podcast set up there. There's my guys. We just finished an amazing podcast with Dr. Pompa. So haven't had a chance to prepare for this, but I'm ready to fire up some questions. So I hope everybody had a great weekend. If you followed my story out in LA, we were on Access Hollywood. We went to the University of Southern California and met with Dr. Valter Longo. If you haven't read the Fast Mimicking Diet or the Longevity Diet, it is amazing, bringing sound science, clinical-based research, randomized clinical trials to prove just the amazing power of the human body. You're going to feel a lot better about the fast that we did, the 3-day water fast, if you join me for that 3-day water fast after watching that Dr. Valter Longo podcast. So let's just start firing up some questions. Hello. Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
What part of the world are you in?
Illinois.
Oh, you're in Illinois. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I am too. You have no idea. Okay, well, I'll try to make this short. I know there's a lot of people that have questions.
Sure.
I've had my lab work done and my gene test done. I'm currently still waiting to get on a schedule with the doctor, hopefully soon.
Okay.
And I've started taking the things for my gene, the supplements. Because I have the red COMT and the red MTHFR.
Okay.
And the yellow MTRR. So I think those have been helping with my anxiety a lot. But my problem is my hormones, and I'm wondering if, because I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, I'm wondering if you can help tell me what I can do in the meantime, because I feel like I'm losing it.
Okay. Well, you can definitely start on the 10X Optimize, which is
I have that
methylated multivitamin,
Yep.
no question, and even add extra folate, methylfolate, the 5-MTHF. So
yep, I got that.
And red, red COMT, catechol O-methyl transferase. And those, do very well with methylated multi-B vitamins, the methylcobalamin and the methylfolate. Part of the reason methyl is a part of all of those is that they are methylated, so that the versions that are most readily absorbed by the body. I mean, and that's not my opinion. That's clinically proven. And
I'm taking those 3 now already.
2 of the Optimize in the morning, 1 at night.
Yep, and the 5-MTHF and the TMG.
And the trimethylglycine. That is amazing. So 21 days, 14 to 21 days is where you should start really noticing some of those differences. One of the things that Dr. Pompa and I talked about today on the podcast was, and it's just finished just a few minutes ago, was that the majority of people are seriously undermethylated. And what happens is our stress bucket starts to fill up, right? So we have all kinds of stresses. We have actually stress from exercise, people that are intensely athletic. We have stress from emotional and psychological stress from our jobs, our spouses, our kids, our career. But then we also have chemical stressors. And a lot of times, and I talk about this a lot, and I want to teach all the rule breakers to do this too. We don't really filter our environment. We just allow our temple to be the filter. And one of the things I think is really important as we embark on this optimal health journey together is, what are we doing to filter things before they make it to the temple, right? Because you have two choices. You can filter your environment, your food, your water before it makes it to the temple, or you can let the temple be the filter. You can drink tap water and your body will filter out the microplastics, the pharmaceuticals, it'll filter out the fluoride, it'll filter out the chlorine, and you will have the consequences of that. Or you filter your water before it goes into the body with an Echo water filtration system. I know some of these things cost money. Yes, I love it. I drink out of it every day. Yay, everybody's holding theirs up.
Yeah.
It's funny. I get on commercial flights now, and people are like, "Hey, Gary, I got your," and if you haven't been on a flight yet, every flight attendant thinks it's a bomb. So just be ready, because you turn it on, especially if it's dark and it's got the light and the bubbles, and they're like,
right.
Make it through security.
But so do you think do you think that I'm feeling this way because of my DHEA? My hormones are my DHEA is 52.
Oh, no question. You can multiply that DHEA level by almost 6 times, more than 6 times, and still be in the normal.
And my free testosterone is very low.
What is your HPG?
HPG. Which one is that?
SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin.
Oh, that is normal. That says it's normal, 56.2.
So remember
that
that
free testosterone is bad, and then the DHEA and then the insulin growth factor is a little low.
Okay, so again, not a medical physician, but I'll tell you, DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone, is a precursor for hormones, right? It's the construction material that we use to make hormones. So if I don't care how good your builder is, if you don't deliver raw material to the job site, they're not building anything. And sometimes we forget that very often it's missing raw material in the human body that is causing certain consequences, right? So DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone, is the raw material to build hormones. So, I would say 70% of the time when my clinical team sees patients that qualify for hormone therapy, they actually don't get hormones. They get the precursors for the body to make hormones, right?
Okay.
And no matter what anybody tells you, there is no better hormone than one the body produces on its own, right? So if we can somehow be, for lack of better words, high on our own supply, that is much better than taking things from outside the body and putting it in.
Okay. So is there anything I can do for that then? Is there
25 milligrams of DHEA daily.
25 milligrams. Okay. Perfect.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Cindy. Stay warm. Michael?
Hi, Gary. Michelle. It's
Michelle. Michelle, how are you, Michelle?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent.
Great. So greetings from Switzerland in Zurich.
Oh, man, you get the distance award.
Yeah, probably.
All right. That's awesome.
So we were in Miami back in December, did the gene and lab testing, and my free testosterone is also very low. So there was 3 recommendations. One was the clomiphene and the DHEA and the Tongkat Ali. So right now I'm really not sure if I should take a drug like clomiphene, because I usually tend to react very sensitive to drugs in general. So I heard from Andrew Huberman that there is a natural alternative which is called Fiducia agrestis. Have you heard of it?
Yes, and that is a natural alternative. It's like berberine for metformin, right? And some of these natural alternatives perform as good, if not better, than some of the, the chemical or synthetic or pharmaceutical versions. So if you're more comfortable doing that, then by all means, do that. I mean, they all are designed to do essentially the same thing, which is raise your own production of your own natural hormone. And I'm always a fan of trying to produce from within rather than take from without, but before we do any kind of replacement. So none of the things that you were prescribed by the clinical team are hormones, but to the extent that you can take the natural version, absolutely.
Okay, so and with the Doja agrestis, would you know how to take it?
It's usually dosed on the back of the bottle, comes in different dosages, but you'll see the number of capsules per serving, and it will usually tell you to take it with or without food. That one I happen to know you can take without food. It's not a fat soluble supplement, and it also doesn't change the pH of the stomach. So it's one of those things you can take and not get nauseous on an empty stomach. If you've ever actually taken a multivitamin on an empty stomach, sometimes it makes you feel like kind of queasy. That queasy feeling is coming because it rapidly changed the pH of your stomach.
Okay, so and also another question. I was diagnosed with primary sclerosing cholangitis. Have you heard of this autoimmune disorder?
Primary sclerosing what?
Cholangitis.
Colonitis?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I mean, but just from the term, which is the Latin root of that, primary sclerosing colonitis would be sores in the colon, which is sclerosis.
No, it's actually in the liver. So it's the hardening of the ducts in the liver. And so the gall tends to not go through well and goes back into the blood. So my bilirubin is high in the blood. That's what we found in the blood test. So
I am not particularly familiar, with that condition. I mean, I understand it from a physiologic standpoint. I'm not sure what the clinical team would recommend to do there, and we could probably arrange a call with one of our clinicians.
They actually recommend me stuff to thin the bile so that it flows better through the ducts. So sunflower lecithin, but I just want to hear your point on it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. But from a clinical standpoint, I'm just not familiar enough to really comment. I wouldn't want to steer you in the wrong direction because I don't have the
no problem
to do that.
Okay, great. But thank you very much for your help.
Hey, Michelle, you're very welcome, man. Thanks for staying up so late to get on. Hey there. It says Preacher's Nokia.
Hey, Gary.
I know your name's not Preacher's Nokia.
Well, let's find out if you can hear me. Okay, hang on.
I can hear you just fine.
All right, good. Well, Preacher was my Navy call sign. I still go by that. I named my phone that because Nokia is the most horrible phone there is, so nobody will try and break into it.
That's great.
Hey, God bless again. It's good to talk to you again. The first time I think I was in Germany. This time I'm in Virginia. Not as good as Florida, but still good.
That's great.
So here's the question is along the line of supplements. I know the things you take and you recommend, and I'm getting on board with those, but some other additional things. For example, and I have the Baja Gold Salt. So how do you feel about the Element Salt? Do I add creatine to what I take? I lift, I run, I jujitsu, I do things to stay in good shape. The cyanocobalamin, again, a rundown on why that's not a good thing, because I found that in some of my other supplements, which means I'm not taking them anymore. So along those lines, creatine, Element Salt, and then the cyanocobalamin.
Yeah, so a couple things. If I just share my screen with you real quick, I'm going to can you guys see this? Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Okay, great.
Yes.
So I'm at the National Library of Medicine at the National Institute of Health. Okay. And I'm looking up, and you can go here anytime. It's called PubChem. You can put in any chemical, synthetic, you can put in a vitamin, nutrient, whatever you like. And I'm searching for cyanocobalamin. And if I go down here, it will tell me its component compounds. Well, its first compound is a cyanoradical. And a cyanoradical is hydrogen cyanide. Can you see that?
Yep.
So this is a flammable, acute toxic, health hazard, environmental hazard. So this is the first component in cyanocobalamin, the cyanide-based form of B12. You can see here that hydrogen cyanide is a toxic conjugate acid of cyanide that's used as a chemical weapon agent. So, you know, my preference would not be to take supplements that have chemical weapon agents in them or highly toxic, you know, compounds like that. The word cyano means cyanide. So it is cyanide-based B12. It's, by the way, the only form of B12 that we make in a laboratory. The methylcobalamin, hydroxycobalamin, adenosylcobalamin are naturally occurring all over the place in nature. Small amounts of cyanocobalamin occur, but when we take it in protein powders, then energy drinks, then supplements, then our multivitamin, you know, it can have a toxic effect. Secondly, big fan of creatine, 5 milligrams a day. You don't need to do a loading dose like some people tell you to do. The body can readily absorb creatine. Best taken 5 milligrams prior to workouts. And what was the other compound you had a question about?
The Element, the salt drink that
Element T.
Huberman recommends.
So Element T uses pink Himalayan sea salt, which is good.
Okay.
A lot of pink Himalayan sea salt, you know, we found to have heavy metals. The pink Himalayan sea salt's imported from China. There's a video on my Instagram. I do this with a lot of compounds, but I just dumped a bunch of pink Himalayan sea salt, forget what the brand, it's on my Instagram. And I took you know, like a dough roller and I crushed it into like a fine powder. And then I passed a magnet over top of it and you can actually see it jumping up and flaking right onto the magnet. I personally believe that Baja Gold sea salt, because it's the same price as Celtic, it's the same price as pink Himalayan, is the best salt you can put in the human body. The reason why I believe that is for three things. Number one, it has all 91 trace minerals. You're very hard pressed to find a salt that has all 91 trace minerals in it. Second, this salt is the only one that I've seen that is tested down to 250 parts per billion, not parts per million, parts per billion for microplastics, glyphosates, pharmaceuticals, and heavy metals. Unfortunately, at the bottom of the ocean now, you do find a lot of heavy metals. So it's heavy metal free, it's glyphosate free, it's herbicide, pesticide, insecticide free, and it's also free of microplastics and pharmaceuticals. So it's super clean. And one of the things that we forget in human physiology is that all human beings need three things. All human beings need three things. We need 91 essential nutrients, we need 8 essential amino acids, and we need 3 essential fatty acids. When we become deficient in one of those or several of those, we get the expression of disease. And so this is why I'm a huge fan of Perfect Aminos. I am a huge fan of Baja Gold sea salt. I'm a huge fan of I actually make my own DHEA, EPA fish oil, but I'm a big fan of DHEA and EPA oil supplements, MCT oils, medium chain triglyceride supplements, because then we get the essential fats, the essential proteins, and the essential minerals.
All sounds great. I'm on board with all of it. Thank you very much, Gary.
Got it, brother.
On to the next one. God bless you.
Keep on keeping on, preacher. Hi, guys. Hi, Jen. You're muted, Jen. Bottom left. There you go. You're unmuted now.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
My question is, so I'm 55 and I have myasthenia gravis,
Hmm?
and I am trying to get into a doctor here to get all my hormones tested and stuff. But one, I want to know if you know about that, but I've been doing, you know, paleo, not keto, paleo, really clean. I also am doing green smoothies with protein in them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I watched the, you know, Goodbye Lupus Protocol too, between you and her, and pretty much I'm doing your thing because, well, I just can't live on raw vegetables. But I do put greens in my smoothie, but I do the 30 grams of protein right when I get up.
Super.
I got my genes tested. I'm taking the multivitamin and the TMG. That's what you recommended.
Yes.
So I'm about to get a lot of blood work done and stuff because I'm sure like I'm at the end of menopause or something like that, you know.
Sure.
But I'm through doing this diet, I've been able to use my muscles again. So with myasthenia gravis, when I use my muscles, they get paralyzed or don't work.
Right.
So through being strict on this diet and drinking tons of water and, you know, I've been able to go to the gym and take walks with my dog
Wow.
and
That's
do
awesome.
but I can't lose 1 ounce of weight.
Okay.
And I have a lot of inflammation. So
Those two go hand in hand. So, did you get your blood work done?
no, there's a woman's doctor here that I can get into pretty quickly, and she has
Great.
really extensive blood work.
Okay.
So instead of waiting, because I've been doing this already like 2.5 months, and like I'm like, what can I do differently? Because I want to keep working out and I want to work out harder, but then
So
can't.
I'll tell you some things to make sure you want to bring up with this functional medicine doctor. Obviously, she should pull a full hormone panel. And you want to look for something called estrogen dominance, right? This is
Okay.
very, very common in middle-aged women. And you know what happens is estrogen gets out of ratio with other hormones, right? And when estrogen becomes dominant, meaning it's out of ratio with your other hormones, it expresses its characteristics. It becomes the dominant characteristic one. And so what are some of the characteristics of estrogen? Well, number one, brain fog. Number two, mood numbness, not depression, but mood numbness. The peaks and the valleys of mood have a tendency to disappear. So you don't get really, really, really happy. You don't get really, really, really upset. You just kind of, yeah, right? You're sort of stuck in the middle. You feel like sometimes you're just going through the motions. I want to be careful to say it's not depression. It's not like, you know, you
but I understand.
So, and then, you know, if you look at a female menstrual cycle, you'll see that it's perfectly normal, depending on where a woman is in her cycle, for estrogen to be in the teens. It's perfectly normal for estrogen to be in the 400s. So what determines whether or not estrogen is high or low? Well, you can't use the number, you have to use the ratio. When a female gets pregnant, her estrogen goes to 4,500 from in the 400s. So why does it do that? Because estrogen is very, very good at binding water. One of its primary roles is to bind water in what's called the interstitial space, the space between cells. And estrogen is really good at holding on to that water. And these women think that they're fat. They're not. They're bloated from water retention. It will start right below the belly button. It will move laterally around to the flanks and to these little pads right behind your kidneys, right above your belt line. So that seems to be your problem area, and you have some of those mood challenges too. Have her look at you for estrogen dominance. There's some easy things that you can do.
I started taking DIM because you said that.
Great. Yep, diindolylmethane is great. Taking that twice a day, but she'll be able to tell you. She may actually put you on a progesterone supplement or something different to narrow that band. Even postmenopausal women, this is important, a lot of women don't realize this, even in postmenopause, women have a cycle. It's just the amplitude is less, right? But there is still a cycle.
And I had a hysterectomy, but I have my ovaries, but I definitely saw a change like last year in the way I gained weight and everything, no matter how I ate. And literally, I mean, I can't eat any cleaner, you know, like there's just not. And I'm going to the gym and doing yoga. And I mean, I could just, and
nothing is more frustrating than that. As soon as you bring that estrogen progesterone ratio back into conformance, the weight will come off because it's not fat, it's water retention.
Yeah. And what have you dealt with myasthenia gravis? Because, you know, they say you'll never get over it. You're just gonna have to deal with it. And I decided to change my mindfulness about that.
Well, myasthenia gravis, like tons of other autoimmune conditions, is not really an autoimmune disorder at all. It's a progressive weakening of the immune system. And so one of the things that we never do is we never look to strengthen the immune system as a way to actually get over autoimmune disorders. We think very often that it's the immune system being dysfunctional. It's actually the immune system being so weak that it actually can't discern between friendly and foreign tissue. Crohn's disease, you know, diverticulitis, like, you know, Sjogren's, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. these conditions very often occur because of nutrient deficiencies, right? And so what happens is you become deficient in certain nutrients and you're starting to supplement now, and then the immune system becomes dysfunctional. And once the immune system is strengthened, it goes back to having a clear vision again. You know, when the immune system is clouded, it can't tell the difference between certain proteins and other proteins, nucleocapsid proteins from a foreign pathogen versus the protein that's on the surface of myofibril tissue in your muscles, and it begins to make muscle tissues paralytic, which usually occurs at the junction between the nerve and the muscle tissue itself.
Yeah.
So anything you can do to strengthen the immune system, ozone
Okay.
IVs, exercise is a great one. Getting adequate levels of sleep. Remember, when we get into deep sleep, the big benefit of deep sleep is we activate something called the glymphatic system, which is the detox system in the brain. We have the lymphatic system in the body. We have the glymphatic system in the brain. The glymphatic system is what eliminates waste, repairs, detoxifies, and regenerates the brain. So anything that you can do to strengthen your immune system, bombarding your immune system with less toxins. You might also want to email my staff and ask them for a recommendation for an air filter. An air filter like that one right there that will filter down to 0.1 micron. It'll actually filter viruses out of the air. Because if you're not in a clean environment, you could constantly be in a low-grade autoimmune state, right? You can have this from mycotoxins, from mold, from dust, from other kinds of pathogens and spores that are in the air. Filtering the environment where you spend most of the amount of time is a great way to actually strengthen the immune system, so it has less things to focus on than it does healing.
Yeah, because they say I have sleep apnea, they say too, but I've tried the sleep machine and I've listened to like almost all your stuff, you know, over and over. And I'm just like, I do biofeedback as a profession too. So I'm
that's
like,
great.
I can beat this through my mind and through my body and through my eating healthy. I don't believe I'm going to be on a CPAP machine. It doesn't make sense to me that I can't get rid of it.
Yes.
Like,
amen. Absolutely. Yeah. Amen. I love that you have that mentality. So if someone, okay, so my team, the supplement I recommended for estrogen was DIM, DIM.
Yeah, and I have that.
Yeah, and it comes from cruciferous vegetables. You know, somebody just asked about it in the chat. It comes from cruciferous vegetables. It's actually synthesized from 3-indole carbinol in cruciferous vegetables. So I'm fans of those kinds of supplement origins because they have no chemicals, synthetics, or pharmaceuticals, and they're what we call metabolites, which means the body recognizes them and can break them down and eliminate them as waste.
Right. Awesome. They can actually use it. Okay, well, thank you so much, Gary.
You're super welcome, Jen.
Thanks.
Yes, you're welcome. What's up, Jeffrey?
How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing amazing, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for taking the time to do the impromptu conversations.
Of course.
My question just revolves a little bit around kind of some product recommendations that you might have.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was one that I brought up during the breathwork challenge, and unrelated to breathwork, but it was sort of like something you said that you attach the back of your phone that can like help with an EMF emitting, and there was like a product around that.
Yep.
I'm just looking for if you recalled what that might be.
I'll have my team put that into the chat. We'll put it up on the Ultimate Human website, so everybody can see that. I'm building out an area where, because as you know, since I bought back my platform, the Ultimate Human from my previous agency that I signed with, I own 100% of the platform now. So I am not beholden to anyone, any product, any advertiser. I will not do an ad read or promote a product or a service unless it meets one of two criteria. I either use it every day in my daily life, or I have firsthand knowledge of it and I've tested it. That's not to poo-poo other products. You'll see me actually shout out a lot of competitive products. I make my own multivitamin, but I think Thorne Pure Encapsulation, Symbiotic also make great multivitamins. I use the Echo Hydrogen Water Filtration System because I've tested it and I've used it in my house and I have firsthand knowledge of it. So happy to put that up on our product list on the Ultimate Human.
All right, sounds great. And then
in fact, you know what?
One is for my kit. I have
this right here is my testing kit for my air filter.
Oh, nice.
So I actually have been testing these air filters. This is a particulate matter test, and it actually will tell me, not that you asked this question, but I'm going to show you anyway. Because I happen to be testing these air filters, a lot of them were complete nonsense. So when they send me these things, I'll take these particulate matter I don't even know if you guys can read that. But what it'll do is on a continuous flow, it will tell me the number of small particles. These are down to the size of a virus, and the number of large particles. So there's 143 microparticles, 547 large particles. And then watch what happens if I turn this air filter on. You see those numbers? See how it's gone to 10 to 3 to 7? Can you see that? It's going to actually take it
It's hard to see.
all the way down to 0. So now there's 3 particles in the air and 42, 24. It's even taken 14, 10, 7. Yeah, so that's a very good filtration device. You know, a lot of these won't even cut those numbers by 10%.
I take the 10X Optimize
Okay.
for, multivitamin, and I wanted to see something from methylated vitamin for my children.
Mhm.
They're still toddlers, one's 2, one's 4. It probably, like a chewable or a gummy. Is there anything that you would have to recommend that they could do?
Douglas Labs, which is a division of Pure Encapsulations. Douglas Labs makes a methylated gummy, and it's dosed by weight. So kids will take from 1 to 4 gummies depending on their weight, and it's on the back of the label. It's a Douglas Labs methylated gummy.
Got it. Thank you very much. And then just one other one was I can't afford a full water filtration system right now.
Okay.
I do have the Echo Go, and I also have a water pitcher for the fridge that I know filters out
Chlorine.
chlorine, but not fluoride.
Okay.
Do you know of one that filters out fluoride too, or does that not exist?
I mean, the Echo does, but that one's around $1,000.
Yeah.
But I'll do a little research on that. But if you got, chlorine's a good place to start, and then eventually, you can work your way up to. They might even have financing through Echo. I'm not sure. I've actually seen on their website where they break it down into payments.
Okay.
So it might be affordable to do it that way. Use their 4-stage RO filter, which is the one that I use, and then I have it go into that hydrogenator, and it dumps it into it adds the hydrogen ions there at the end.
Okay. All right. I'll look into that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a great one. Hey, Scott.
You too.
Hey, good afternoon, Gary.
How you doing, man?
Good. I had a quick question. I've got a endoscopy that's happening on Monday due to GERD, and I recall somewhere you said that GERD is actually reversible. So I wanted to ask you, not for medical advice, but can you explain the process of reversing that so I could look into that?
Yeah, so gastroesophageal reflux disease, there's a lot of things that cause it, but one of the culprits is a sphincter at the bottom of the esophagus and the top of the stomach. It's called the cardiac sphincter because it's close to the heart. And then there's another sphincter on the bottom of the stomach called the pyloric sphincter. And these kind of work in opposite of each other, right? The cardiac sphincter opens, lets food in, closes, opens, lets food out, closes. Open, let food in, close, open, let food out. If that sphincter, because you have an MTR or MTRR gene mutation, is lax, it is relaxed, then what happens? Do you have that gene mutation?
I have MTRR, it's yellow.
Yes. So there you go. Very common. That is a part of intestinal motility. So what happens when we swallow a piece of chicken, for example? You have what's called peristalsis, right? It works that chicken down and it goes into the stomach. When that peristaltic activity ends in the esophagus, depending on whether or not there is food coming down or not, that sphincter dilates, lets the food in, and then it clamps shut. If it does not clamp all the way shut, if it stays partially dilated, acid splashes from the stomach into the esophagus. Now, they're going to look at the end of your esophagus and see if there's any dysplasia, meaning if there's any changes to the end of the esophagus. It's called Barrett's esophagitis. Because what happens when that distal end of the esophagus, which doesn't have the mucosal lining to actually have acid laying against it, it actually can get dysplastic, meaning the cells can start to change in there. They get very irritated. And that's a precursor for esophageal cancer. So we don't want that.
That was 3 months ago.
Okay, so they're going to look in there, going to make sure there's no changes, no dysplastic changes. I'm sure there's not going to be in your case, and then you can actually supplement with the complex of B vitamins, methylfolate, and the methylcobalamin, which you will get in the 10X Optimize. And usually, this is enough to not only correct intestinal motility, but to also strengthen that sphincter muscle. It needs those nutrients in order to have the contractile strength to function. And if you get those nutrients, you know, very, very often it's reversible. It's not that you're actually reversing a disease, you're just improving the strength of that muscle closing, right? So we call it gastroesophageal reflux disease, but it's just a name for acid splashing into the esophagus. I wish we wouldn't name it a disease so people didn't think they had a pathology, and that they actually just have a physiologic condition. It's not working. It's like very often peripheral neuropathy. It sort of connotates that something's wrong with the nerves in your periphery. Well, very often it's related to blood flow. I could give everybody on this Zoom call right now peripheral neuropathy very quickly just by putting a tourniquet on your calf. Right? If I put a tourniquet on your lower leg or right here on your forearm for that matter, you'd have peripheral neuropathy in about 20 minutes, right? You start getting tingling, numbness, burning. Eventually, in about an hour, I could actually pinch the top of the skin on your hand as hard as I wanted. You wouldn't feel it. There's nothing wrong with your nerves. You just don't have the blood flow. And so that could be the issue in your case.
My notes are scribbly. So I am on 10X Optimize.
Okay, great.
What were the other things you mentioned? Something about methylfolate?
Methylfolate, 5-MTHF, 5-methylfolate.
Okay, and then was there 2 others? Was there anything else?
Well, they're in I mentioned them, but they're in the 10X Optimize. So you would be taking 2 in the morning and 1 at night.
Okay. So the 5-MTHF and the 10X Optimize are what I need to be focused on.
Yes, sir.
Right on. Thank you for all you do, man. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
That's great. Thank you.
Yes,
Hi,
sir.
Steve. And Steve's friend in the back.
Yeah, can you hear me, Gary?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, this is my beautiful wife, Chris.
Hello.
Hi,
I've
beautiful.
enjoyed everything with you for sure. Man, you're sure looking vascular today. Big
Yeah,
time.
I worked out this morning.
Absolutely, you look great. Hey, there's a question my wife would like to ask, so I'm going to let her ask you right now.
Yeah,
Super.
Gary, yeah. Thank you for your time. I did write it down to be succinct, but I did take a gene test, and I do believe that I have the COMT gene. I did not get the results back yet.
Okay.
But some of the symptoms are that are overly active, perfectionism, an anxiously running mind, which continuously loops scenarios that are detrimental yet will probably never come true.
Yep.
Irrelevant lyrics of songs running through my mind before I sleep, and irrelevant checklists before I go to sleep. And I believe that I have less ability to process stress than the average person. And I've heard you talk about SAMI, and just wondered if you believe that there would be a benefit of taking that before
No
results.
question.
If so, would I see the results pretty soon?
Almost immediately. So with COMT, this stands for catechol O-methyltransferase. But what does catechol mean? Catechol is short for catecholamines. Catecholamines are fight or flight neurotransmitters. So people with the COMT gene mutation, instead of walking around at a 2, are walking around at a 6. And fight or flight neurotransmitters, they have an ancestral need, right? I mean, you're sleeping in a cave and a tiger walks into the end of the cave and you wake up and there's a tiger and instantly you need to react, right? Pupils dilate, heart rate increases, extremities flood with blood. But in modern society, catecholamines cause a certain level of anxiousness. They also lead to mild anxiety. They lead to a awakened state. Just think of being in a full fight or flight. It's as a most awakened state that you could be in. But just taking those catecholamines from a 10, where tiger's standing in front of you, to a 6, you know, you still have awakened state in the mind. And these people have a tendency when they consider a scenario to consider worst case scenario every time, right? And the reason why you go straight to worst case scenario is because the brain is full of fight or flight neurotransmitters. And the reason why you go through checklists is because you're looking to your outside environment to explain why the mind is active. And so when the mind is active, we're like, well, what things can I get out of my mind, right? So I go through the checklist. Did I get everything on my grocery list today? Did I return that email? Did my belt match my shoes? Am I going to have a Thanksgiving Day party? You know, so, and you find yourself laying there at night and you're like, what in the heck am I thinking about my grocery list for? It's 2:30 in the morning, right? And so, you know, it helps sometimes to actually, people like you tend to be list takers. And they tend to be very organized, and they tend to be list takers. But they also have a tendency to be what's called worriers and not warriors. The reason why they are worriers and worry about everything and consider worst case scenario all the time is because of this level of catecholamines. It is a game changer when you actually start to down regulate catecholamines, so you are finally walking around at a 2.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with you. You are just in an elevated state, right? And so, you know, you're the kind of person that, you know, if you had to accomplish a task, for example, you had to study on the computer. Well, not only would the desk the computer's on have to be clean, but the room the desk is in would have to be clean, right? You'd notice the sock against the baseboard. You'd have to get up, move the sock, then go back to what you're doing, right? Because
You're nailing it.
Yep.
yeah,
Live with it.
crazy. He's like, I'm vindicated.
Exactly.
And it doesn't mean you are a negative person. I want to be cautious about that. It doesn't mean you're negative Nancy. It just means you are overtly cautious, and tend to overthink things. Like, you know, you can really overthink things. Big purchases, things like that are really tough on people with COMT mutations, right? It takes them forever to make a decision. When they finally do make a decision, there's zero changing their mind. And the reason is because they have considered every possible reason that could have failed.
Mm.
Now they've actually made a decision and there's no changing their mind. But that decision-making process can be pretty arduous. Go ahead.
Could she start taking Sammy right now, Gary, before she gets the results? Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
You will wake up happy, and you take it first thing in the morning. You will notice it within 3 days.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Hey, I've never heard this one, and this one would help me. Tendinitis.
Tinnitus or tendinitis?
Yeah.
Tinnitus, ringing in the ears, or tendinitis?
Yes. Ringing
Oh.
in the ears.
Yeah. So ringing in the ears, if it doesn't have a physiological cause, like you know, true tinnitus, like Meniere's disease or something like that, where they actually diagnose you with something where you have a physiological condition. There's something going on in the cochlea or the tympanic membrane, or with the 3 bones in the ear, the hammer, the anvil, the stapes, or the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. Then aside from a physiological issue is generally inflammation in an area of the brain called the vestibular cortex. And one of the best ways to reduce inflammation is with glutathione and with micellized turmeric, meaning nanoparticulate turmeric or curcumin. On the Ultimate Human, you can actually get, we have a link to something called Gluterol. You can actually link to the glutathione, the topical glutathione spray that you can actually just rub on your arm. And
Yes.
then it would look at getting, we have it, but you can also get it online, nanoparticle turmeric and curcumin. The reason why nanoparticle is important is anytime you have inflammation in the body, inflammation becomes its own worst enemy, right? So let's say you have a cell and it's inflamed because it's deficient in B12. Well, you can bring all of the B12 in the world you want right to the wall of that cell. It will not let it in.
Mm.
It's like having a heart attack on your floor with the paramedics locked outside your door, right? Their proximity doesn't matter. And so when you make things into a nanoparticle, they don't have to ask permission. They walk right through the cell wall and they go in and they handle the inflammatory cascade. So nanoparticulate, turmeric, and curcumin, and SAMe for mom, and or for wifey, and for mom, and the glutathione.
Okay. Gary, you're the best, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate all you do.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys. Thank you for your trust and confidence. True freedom. I love true freedom. You're back.
Let's see. There we go.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. So I have a question about enlarged prostate. Do you have any recommendations for reducing that? Because I'm having bladder emptying issues.
So again, not medical advice, but enlarged prostate is usually something called benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, and benign prostatic hyperplasia can be acute, meaning it came on very quickly, in which case it's generally an infection. You should see a physician or go to an urgent care and get on an antibiotic for that. If it's been chronic, one of the best things is Sun Foods Brain Fuel, and the same that I was telling him, micellized turmeric and curcumin, because you have to get to, the prostate actually has, restricted blood flow. So getting, and you can think of the prostate as like an orange, right? It has a peel, and then it has the organ inside of it. It's like a soft, fleshy organ inside of it, but it has this sort of external kind of peel, kind of shell around it. And so, it has a compromised area of blood flow. So, the micellized turmeric and curcumin usually will handle prostatitis, the restricted flow, in 3 to 4 hours. Literally 3 to 4 hours. Yeah.
And what was the other thing that you said?
Micellized or nanoparticle turmeric and curcumin.
No, I got that, but you said something before that. Some sun.
Yeah, it's Sun Foods. Nope, they just put it into. I love my team. They just put you the link in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and micellized turmeric and curcumin.
Awesome.
4 hours. You'll notice an increase in urinary flow. I'd rather, I'm not a big fan. Again, I'm not medical advice, but I'm not a big fan of using like finasteride and Propecia. And Flomax and those things, because a lot of these will work by crushing your DHT, your dihydrotestosterone. Like when men don't want to lose their hair and they take finasteride, what finasteride is doing is killing their hormone in order to not have it bind to the hair follicle. You can apply it topically, and it all goes to the hair follicle. Very little of it makes it into the bloodstream, and that is a much safer, much more effective way to do it.
Yeah, they tried to put me on Flomax. It wasn't going to work for me.
No.
So, but thanks for all you do, Gary. Really appreciate it.
No, I love you guys, man. These sessions are chicken soup for my soul. So I hope you guys get a lot out of them. Hi there, Lori.
Hey, Gary, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Lori. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I have a couple questions. One, the previous woman talking about COMP, I also am red there. And I know when Sage was in her podcast, she had said that she had to add SAMe later, but it wasn't on my recommended supplements from the team.
Yeah, usually when you start taking methylated supplements, it will help solve that. And if not, then we add SAMe. SAMe is the most prevalent methylated nutrient in the human body. So it's, considered a pretty safe supplement, which is why over the counter. So you can try the SAMe, S-adenosyl methionine, in the morning, once in the morning, with or without food. And it generally, you will notice within 3 days or less. Remember, the interesting thing about methylation is, there's nothing wrong with you guys, right? Your body's just deficient in a certain raw material. This is the exciting thing, because I always use the analogy of buying a brand new car and parking it in your garage and draining the fuel out of the tank. There's zero chance that car is going to run, but there's nothing wrong with the vehicle, right? As soon as you put the fuel in, it starts, right? It runs like the beautiful machine it's designed. And you know, God gave us all the resources that we need to thrive. You know, the sad thing is just our modern way, our modern lifestyle depletes a lot of these things. I mean, a lot of times the stuff that we're eating is not even food. You know, I don't even recognize half the stuff on labels now, you know, and I'm a human biologist. So, so SAMe is a great methylated nutrient.
Okay. And on the thyroid, you have mentioned how we're always punishing the thyroid that only produces 20% of the hormone. I have been on levothyroxine for over 20 years, and now a hormone specialist has added liothyronine to it.
Yeah.
So if we're punishing the thyroid, then what's another way to generate those hormones if not through the medicating it?
Well, remember that 80% of the thyroid hormone T3, which is generally the one they use to diagnose hypothyroid, is not produced by the thyroid. It is produced in the gut region. Technically, it is deiodinized in the liver, but it's the liver, the gut, and the periphery. This is where T4 is converted into T3. So if your T4 levels are normal, but you have suboptimal or low levels of T3, there's an 80% chance that it's not your thyroid. That is just a fact. That's not even a medical opinion, right? Because 80% of the thyroid hormone, T3, is not even produced by the thyroid. It's always fascinating to me that when a level is low, that is 80% produced outside of the thyroid, that we medicate the thyroid, because the best response we could get is a 20% improvement. Right? So if you're at 100, the best you could do is go to 120. Whereas the other 80% that's produced in the gut, if we fix methylation, which you can do with 10x Optimize and multi, then you could go from 100 to 180. And people say all the time, oh my God, this stuff fixed my thyroid. And I always remind people, it actually didn't fix your thyroid. There was nothing wrong with your thyroid.
All right. And one thing about cold plunging, I'm also in Chicago. The groundwater was at 46 degrees this morning, so I don't even have to add ice to my plunge.
1 minute in a cold shower. I mean, you can shower in Chicago.
So I was just going to ask though, because I do the shower Monday through Friday, and I try to do the tub on Saturday and Sunday. It's just so hard to get. So do you think the shower could be enough?
Yeah, the shower's enough. Look, turn it cold, step out of the stream.
I do it every day.
Take a deep breath in, and then step in while you exhale, and then just deal with it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I love the shower. I actually miss it if I don't do it.
Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort, and I want you to hear those words while you're in there. Gary said, "Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort."
Thank you.
Right?
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, you're super welcome. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, how's it going?
Amazing. You muted again, brother. You said, oh, there you go. You're off mute.
Sorry about that.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, came across you at one of those 10X conference, saw you speak. I just finished doing 90 plus days of the cell reset, no alcohol, no nothing. I've been doing the cold plunging. Matter of fact, I'm still shaking right now. I just finished it just before this. So if I'm chattering, it's why. But I'm an airline pilot. I'm based out on the other side of the world in Guam. So just got stateside and just started trying. I heard your podcast last week or so about the jet lag. And so I'm trying that don't eat the 48-hour thing, and so far that feels really good because I've got all kinds of other little tricks and stuff that I've done.
Amazing, right? And just for those guys that missed it, it's not eating during your normal sleeping window. Right. So just to be specific for those of you guys that weren't on last week, and nobody talks about this, and it's astounding to me because we are way more tied to our cycle of digestion than we are to the sleep-wake cycle of the sun. So there is zero chance that you will adjust to a new time zone if you are eating while your body thinks it's sleeping. No chance. And so for the first 48 hours in any new time zone, you want to preserve your sleeping window. So I'm on the East Coast of Florida right now. I'm in Miami. So let's say I go to bed at 10 p.m. and I get up at 6 a.m. Then I go to London. Okay, it's 6 hours ahead. So I don't want to eat in London between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. East Coast time, which is between 6 a.m. and noon UK time, London time. So just start eating at noon, and you're fine. And I always use the analogy, if anybody listening to this Zoom right now, if you set an alarm for 3 o'clock this morning and you woke up and you ate a 3-egg omelet, had a glass of orange juice, a couple of blueberries, and went back to bed, there's zero chance you would get back to sleep, right? So why do we feed ourselves when we're in other places when our body thinks we're sleeping?
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for that. That's kind of been a little game changer I'm trying out. And so far the first day, because I just got back the other day. So this will be day 2, 48 hours of that eating. My big question was, I did some blood work. Well, I did your genetic test, and I'm actually was totally shocked I have the half a break, the COMT, and in the little report it said, and this is what shocked me, it said in bold letters, do not drink green tea. Well, I've been drinking, that's all I drink on the airplane when I'm working. And I do have that restless mind thing. I also partake in real estate, like Grant and stuff like that. And so I'll catch myself trying to lay down. My environment quiets down. Next thing you know, my mind just starts running different scenarios. I'm running, comps or numbers in my head for some reason. And then eventually I do. So I was shocked about that, because I thought I'm sitting here trying to do something super healthy for myself. And I've started taking all the supplements that you recommend. However, the only one I didn't start taking was the TMG, because I did blood work recently after I did the what is it, 84 days? You said your cells regenerate in your body. So I did 90 plus days, did my blood work. I was excited to see where my cholesterol, because the only thing that's off on me is my LDL is high. And it shot up even higher. And I'm wondering, is that because of the cold plunging and the sauna stuff I've been doing? Does that start?
Remember, LDL cholesterol could also be measured in a meal. So if you weren't fully fasted, then LDL.
Yeah, I was fasted.
Okay, so because it can pick it up in a meal. And let me just do a quick, like, three minutes on cholesterol, because I believe cholesterol is the most maligned and misunderstood compound in the entire human body. If we talk about what cholesterol is and what it's not, right? First of all, cholesterol is not a fuel source. The body cannot use cholesterol for energy. Okay, if you ate nothing but cholesterol, you would die. So then what is it? It is a construction material. We use it to build every cell wall, every cell membrane, every hormone in the human body. We use it to make the most important nutrient in the human body, which is vitamin D3, cholecalciferol. We make it from sunlight and cholesterol. There is virtually zero, and I'm just quoting published clinical literature, evidence in the peer-reviewed published clinical literature that links elevated levels of LDL cholesterol on its own to cardiovascular disease. You have to have a corresponding increase in triglyceride. If you understand, not to get super technical, but if you remember from high school geometry, as the size of a sphere gets smaller, its surface area to volume ratio goes up. So if we understand that fat, triglyceride, is transported around the body on the surface of cholesterol. So if cholesterol was a tennis ball, the fuzzy yellow coating would be a triglyceride, would be a fat. Let's say you have 2 basketballs of fat sitting on your dining room table. You bring more fat to the table. Those 2 basketballs become 4 softballs. You bring more fat to the table, but they become 8 baseballs. You bring more fat to the table, they become 16 golf balls. And if you add more, they become 32 little BBs. I did not change the amount of cholesterol. I changed the amount of fat, and I changed the size of the cholesterol. So what happens is, as triglyceride goes up, cholesterol gets smaller and more dangerous. Those BBs are way more dangerous than the basketballs, because the basketballs will bounce off the arterial wall. They will not penetrate the arterial wall, get eaten by a macrophage, and cause the whole scarring, plaquing, atherosclerosis, arteriosclerosis, narrowing, all of that stuff. And so, so what we want to do is keep our triglyceride down. How do we keep triglyceride down? We keep sugar down. Sugar makes you fat, not fat. We got to stop blaming the butter for what the bread did.
Okay. Yeah, my triglycerides are low. Everything's in check. And I even did one of those calcium tests, and that was at 0 and stuff like that. Because the big question I saw, because I'd never heard of the TMG supplement, so I looked it up just to understand it. And then it said, there's a little disclaimer on there. It said, if you have high cholesterol, don't take TMG supplements. So,
yeah, I mean, if your homocysteine is elevated in your blood, you want to take trimethylglycine. Look on your blood work, look for homocysteine. If that's elevated, definitely want to take trimethylglycine.
okay. And then can I, with the supplementation, will that offset the effect of that quercetin with the
No, you
green
want
tea?
to
And then
quercetin. I would drink black tea. Because green tea has quercetin, and quercetin is a COMT inhibitor.
yeah, what I noticed it too. It's like in blueberries, and I eat a lot of blueberries. I need to start avoiding all that
Blueberries are
stuff
okay,
too.
you know,
or-
blueberries because they have a lot of fiber in them too. It's just like when we drink a lot of quercetin, it's especially high in green tea. It's not that high in blueberries. But if you drink green tea, it's very, very high in quercetin, and a lot of people will drink voluminous amounts of green tea throughout the day because green tea for a lot of people can be beneficial, but not for people with COMT because it contains quercetin, and quercetin is a COMT inhibitor.
Okay, and all right, so don't even drink a cup a week or something like that or anything.
I mean, if you have a cup a week, no problem. But if you're flying in the airplane, you're sipping on green tea that entire time, your level of quercetin is high, and you're sending, you're sounding the alarm for COMT.
Wow, that's amazing. I was shocked by that. So I appreciate everything you're doing, and I love how you back it up with the science, and then
Yep.
just watching what you've done with Dana, his transformation, and then he's a no BSer. So you put your science and then the results seeing of him and that no BS
Yeah,
attitude.
I mean,
It's
he
amazing what
actually
you're
let
doing.
me. He let me go on Instagram one time and actually put his blood work out into the public domain. He's like, show my blood work from LabCorp, because there were so many naysayers saying that I had paid him to say that, and he owned a piece of my company. None of that was true. First of all, I don't know if you know how wealthy Dana is, but I could not afford to move his needle. So he's doing quite well for himself.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
But he's
Congratulations.
great. Yes, go. So great talking to you, Ryan. Fly safe, brother. Hi, Tina.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Great.
First, I wanted to ask you, so you recommended DIM. I was listening on one of your other calls, and you had recommended DIM. It comes in multiple different strengths. So we tried one of the ones we purchased, my sister and I, and it did not go well because it was very strong, I think. So
What
what?
was very strong?
250.
Oh, okay. The DIM 250.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ended up with really bad headaches, some stomach issues, and that kind of thing. So I was wondering if you could clarify a little bit as to how much.
Yeah. So first I would say, and I say this all the time, is, does your body need it?
Okay.
Right. So the first thing to do is get a hormone test, which you might even be able to get through your primary care doctor at no cost, if you have health insurance. And see if you are estrogen dominant. Because if you're estrogen dominant, DIM will lower the phytoestrogens, the bad girls, the girls that are holding on to the water, right? And so we want to get rid of them. But if you're not estrogen dominant, there's no real need to take DIM. DIM is not just one of the supplements you just take for the sake of taking. In fact, I don't think we should supplement for the sake of supplementing at all. But yes, if you get a hormone test done, and you're estrogen dominant, DIM can be one of the best. And you can go all the way down to 50 milligrams and work your way up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my primary, that was just something that my sister asked me to ask. So my primary question is, I have gone into your keto diet on the Real Breccas. I have approximately 75 pounds to lose, and I've done keto before, but I've always kind of flawed with it. And I notice when I'm looking at your diet that there's no fat in there. Is it because you're trying to burn the fat? You're not supposed to. There's just avocado and a little bit of nuts, but it's not very fat dominant when I'm looking at that.
It should be avocados, coconut oil, olive oils, nuts,
Yeah.
Fatty ribeye, fatty fish. If you look at the profile, the nutritional profile, it will be about 70 to 75% fat, right? Low protein, very low carbohydrate. I believe in keto resets, like 10 to 12 weeks of being
That's
in
what I'm trying to do.
as a way to reset, and then adding carbohydrates back in so that, but you add what we call slow burn carbohydrates, like, brown rices, whole grains, if you eat grains. I don't eat grains, but, and sweet potatoes, things like that, so that you don't have the insulin spike. What makes us fat is the rise in insulin. You see, the primary role of insulin, contrary to popular belief, is not to lower blood sugar. The primary role of insulin is to block any other form of energy use in the body. So when insulin is high, you cannot burn fat. So if you want to actually burn fat, you have to first get insulin down. One of the best ways to get insulin down is to go into ketosis.
Right.
Then your body sees fat as a resource. When Dana White's triglycerides, for example, were 800, he had more fat in his blood as a percentage than blood. Just let that marinate for a second. I put him on a high fat diet to bring the fat in his blood down, which, like, he was like, I have a fat blood, you want me to eat just fat to get the fat out? Yes, because I want to put you into ketosis so the body sees fat as a resource. So 10 to 12 weeks on a keto reset is very good. The challenge with keto is you have to marry it. You cannot date it.
Oh,
right?
I'm married.
Right? Ain't no cheating on keto, right? So you gotta marry it and be faithful to it for that 10 to 12 weeks, and you'll have amazing results.
Okay, you don't happen to have recipes for all of the things that you have in that diet?
I do have recipes for those. I don't know why they're not up on the site, but I'll ask my team to pull the recipes, and we'll get those up on the site for you.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
So happy to be part.
Yep. Hi there. It just says iPhone. Hold on, you're muted still. Okay, there we go. Oh, no, you had it off and you put it back on. There you go.
Good now?
Yep, you're good.
Dude, I'm so excited to talk to you.
Dude, I'm so excited to talk to you too.
I'm Stephanie. Sorry, I was driving.
Hi, Stephanie.
So, quick question. We've done all the gene testing with you guys, done blood work, and long story short, I'm going to try to be quick. 2016, husband at 41 had HPV-related tonsil cancer. So we went through the traditional normal stuff, did proton therapy, radiation. When they did his PET scan, they initially were like, we can't help you. And we're like, what do you mean? And we're like, what are you talking about? They're like, he has cancer everywhere. Essentially, they thought his entire PET scan was lit up with cancer. Once they did biopsies everywhere, they said, no, it's just in his tonsil. We guess he has this condition called sarcoidosis. And of course, I had no idea. I wasn't following you or anything at the time. So nobody would help us figure out what it was. They just wanted to treat the cancer. Fast forward, find you. I'm still trying to just optimize everything. And his MTR gene is completely broken, which and his homocysteine was super high. It was like a 16. We have that with the methylcybalamin B12. So that's good. What I'm trying to figure out is with his immune system, he's healthy. But when I took a blood work course last month, and they were saying that, I think I'm going to get this right, neutrophils to lymphocytes should be at a ratio of like 1 to 1.5.
That's right.
Or I might be reversing them. Okay. His are not. Like if one is the high one is high, but the one that's supposed to be is like at a 13. And I'm worried that so I wasn't sure if you'd ever recommendations. And I was looking at spermidine and or some mushroom compound from Japan called AHCC. But I wanted to get your thoughts on just how to raise immune system and any other recommendations you have.
Yeah. So the glutathione spray, which is on my site, vitamin C 3 times a day. And then I would also look, if you have a pen, maybe you can write this down.
Yep.
Okay. See if he has elevated basophils or elevated immature granulocytes. Immature granulocytes. Either of those are elevated. This is an indication of chronic viral or mold toxicity. And you can treat the chronic viral or the chronic mold. And you know, this is one of those things that actually goes undiagnosed. I mean, 93% of all male colon cancers are positive for HPV, human papillomavirus. So am I telling you that the virus causes the cancer? No, but that is more than a strong correlation. And so many of us, and modern medicine, in my opinion, does not like to recognize the facts that bugs, pathogens, parasites, mold, spores, mycotoxins can actually lead to severe chronic conditions, autoimmune conditions, cancers. If 93% of colon cancers in men are HPV positive, then I would be looking to get rid of the human papillomavirus, right?
Right.
Be looking to get my viral load down. And antivirals, you know, like ivermectin and some of these other ones, hydroxychloroquine, you know, have been proven to be very, very safe. So I would actually talk to the doctor about an antiviral protocol too, which is kind of a switch on how we're addressing this to help the immune system get these viruses into submission. You know, I did a big symposium on, probably going to lose half the audience on this one, but I did a big symposium on long COVID and vaccine injury. Because my opinion is they're the same thing. But, and we have 33,000 people at this. And, I spoke for a couple hours, I did a huge Q&A. And what happens in COVID and all kinds of other viral attacks is you run the immune system down and other opportunistic viruses raise their ugly head, right? Like you get Epstein-Barr virus. Well, you didn't really catch Epstein-Barr. You've always had it. It's mono coming back as Epstein-Barr. You get chickenpox. I mean, you get measles. You get shingles. But shingles is, was chickenpox that you had as a child. So very often when you run the immune system down, these other little opportunistic viruses, they're sucker punchers, right? And they see somebody, down on the ground and they kick them while they're down. So they raise their ugly head. And so if you see any of those elevated, it's a sign that there's chronic viral or mold, and you can start a mold detox or an antiviral protocol, and then you sometimes see the immune system rebounds, right? And
on the vitamin C, are you thinking pill form or liquid? They basically zap the saliva gland with the radiation. So he is on pills, but I try to do as much liquid as possible because it's harder.
Yeah, Symbiotica makes a liposomal version. Symbiotica, liposomal vitamin C, and it's in that tear-off gel pack, and you just squeeze it. And just squeeze the gel pack, and you've had those, and down the hatchet goes.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Awesome. You're super welcome. I enjoyed talking to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Gary.
You're welcome. Hey, Dylan. That's my son's name. Dylan, how you doing, brother?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing amazing.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now. You were breaking up there for a second, but you're good.
Okay, perfect. So the main question I got for you, one, I just sent in my my DNA test the other day, so just waiting on results for that. I would like to do the blood test as well. Fortunately, being in Canada, I should be able to do that without it really having to cost me anything. But my question for you is, I know you've mentioned the 74 biomarkers and probably said more before, but is there anything specific I should be asking for on that blood test that I want to be looking for?
Yeah, so I know we put up on this on the site, either on my Instagram or on The Ultimate Human, the actual panel that we pull in our clinic.
Okay.
Grab that panel and take it to your doctor and see if you guys have socialized medicine, so you should be able to get them to pull that panel for you there. And those are all the hormones, CBC, CMP, Common Metabolic Panel. It's the best casting net to throw out there and see what's under the surface, right? And you know, we had 550 biomarkers that we started with. We narrowed it down to 74 because it's, you know, it's a great catch-all. So I share exactly the panel we pull on men and the exact panel we pull on women, so that, you know, if you don't get it through us, you make sure you get the best panel.
Okay, perfect. That's awesome. Again, being in Canada, I unfortunately couldn't go through you guys to do the DNA test. One more question for you on once I have all the results from this stuff, can I still somehow work with you guys as far as the results goes and working through and understanding everything?
Yes, you can actually pay. I'm going to say it's either 119 or 199 bucks to get on the phone with one of our genetic counselors.
Okay.
And they'll look through those 5 gene mutations for you. They won't interpret like 180 genes, but the 5 that we pull, they'll go through those and go through your supplementation.
Okay. That's, I know the one I did. The only one they didn't test was the AHCY.
That's okay. The other 4 are the big majors.
Okay. Yeah, those ones are covered. So yeah, that's awesome. Okay, I'll definitely get in contact with you guys to go over
Awesome,
everything.
brother.
Perfect. Thank you
Great
very much.
talking to you, man. Stay warm. Okay, it's what time is it? So I'll make sure that I answer a couple of more questions. I know we're 15 minutes over, but let's go another 15 minutes. Hi, Valerie. Valerie,
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
Oh, good. Very, very good. Thank you so much for taking my question.
You're welcome.
I don't have any kids, but I have 3 nephews and a niece, and now I have 2 great nieces and 2 great nephews on the way. And I care a lot about them, and I'm worried about the way they eat. I have been a sugar addict for the majority of my life, and I'm getting off of that. So I was wondering, you know, you ask about little shorts that you could do. Is there any way, like, I saw my great niece, and she's such a sweet little girl, and she's drinking a glass of juice, eating some Hostess chocolate little freaking donuts and some cereal. And I'm like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And so I would love it. And I'm the aunt with the mouth and the one, and I'm in medicine. I'm a clinical laboratory science. So I've been working in laboratories for 30 years. And so, you know, I don't want to come off too strong, but I was wondering, and I know that they know about you, my nephew and my nephews know about you. And if you could do something like that.
Yeah.
And so you could get a little short where I could share it with them. And
yeah, sure.
Not be from me. That would be so great. And you know, talking about how the fortified cereal is not good and all that stuff. If you could do something like that, I would appreciate it so much.
Send them a little video or something. Yeah, my
right,
team.
because then I could forward it. Then we could all share it with our family members and start with the littles, because you know, sugar addiction is a it's a beast.
So I started this thing, Valerie, which you're going to see more of, called Lateral Shift. I actually was just on Access Hollywood this past week for it. And lateral shifts is where I take any food that you like to eat, even kids, and I make a lateral shift. So the 3 promises I make are that it won't increase your budget, it will not change the taste profile, and it'll be easy. And so, like, you know, the one I did this past week, you know, someone brought up the Dannon yogurt with fruit on the bottom, and Yoplait yogurts, the squeezable Go-Gurts and things that they give kids. You really start to look at those things. I mean, there are 4 or 5 different types of food dyes. And by the way, food dyes are antimicrobial. Do you know what that means? That means they kill.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, it kills the good stuff.
So if you're antimicrobial in a jar full of microbes, probiotics, guess what you're killing? You're killing the probiotics. So like the reason why they're trying to give yogurt to kids is because it has probiotics, but then we put food dyes to kill the probiotics. So
right, it's oxymoron.
It's very oxymoronic. And I also talked about some of the hidden terms on labels. Like, we can hide the word high fructose corn syrup, which is highly concentrated fructose and very little glucose, which really spikes your insulin. Not only spikes your insulin, by the way, but it also is converted. It goes through a straight pathway in the liver to triglyceride, instantly turns to fat. But we can hide that as natural fruit flavoring, or corn syrup, or natural corn flavoring. And they're getting very crafty with how they'll like hide ingredients. And so the idea is not to just lecture them, but to give them an alternative. It's like, oh my God, you like to eat that? You try this. You're going to love this. You know, like you want to give them like something that because like when we just condemn them and we don't give them an alternative, then, you know, it just falls on deaf ears. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to, you don't want me to eat Doritos. What am I going to eat? You know, you don't want to
I'm not saying anything, but yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, you try not to say anything. So I'm starting this whole series on lateral shifts, and I'll take any food, Doritos, chips, you know, cupcakes, whatever. And when we start to make these lateral shifts, we took this Go-Gurt, which was not even really food, 4 food dyes, high fructose corn syrup, it even had aspartame in it, and highly processed fruit and artificial fruit flavoring, which, by the way, is a code word for ain't got no fruit. No fruit, some of those that say artificial fruit flavoring. And so you can actually put artificial and natural fruit flavoring and not actually have any fruit. So, so then I said, well, which one do you like? Well, I like the blueberry. Okay, then we're going to take whole fat Greek yogurt. We're going to put that in a bowl. We're going to put a fistful of blueberries. We're going to put a fistful of pistachios. We're going to take a teaspoon of monk fruit and mix it up, and it tastes exactly the same. And we did that for bagels and for all kinds of different foods. Start to look for these because I'm going to do them on a more regular basis. So we can actually start to get to eat, you know, kids to actually like whole real foods. Like there's a chip called masa. It's non-GMO corn, grass-fed beef tallow. They fry it in grass-fed beef tallow and sea salt. And I'm telling you, you put this next to a Dorito, it tastes just as good. It's just as crispy. And wow. Super nutritious. And then you can give it to them with things like guacamole or, you know, other things that they like. You can even get stevia-based sweeteners so that some of the dips have a little bit of like salty and sweet taste to it. Kids love it. So I'm going to start really pushing this I call lateral shift out so that we can like start to give families alternatives that don't add to their budget, don't change the flavor profile, and are super easy swaps. In fact, you know, sometimes because we'll get these things in bulk, it actually drops the price of eating highly processed foods to eating fully nutritious foods.
Okay, thank you. And one other quick thing, if you could look into lotions and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, our skin is our largest organ is our skin. And I try to look for stuff that doesn't have the bad stuff in it. But if there's anything out there that you've heard of or you recommend, I would love to know about that as well.
Yeah, I'm going to do that with lotions, shampoos, conditioners, household cleaning products, dishwasher soaps.
Thank you. Awesome.
And shampoos, because eventually the ultimate human is going to morph into a chemical-free living line. The idea is to take the same products that we would use every day in our life, and for no increase in the budget, move them to ones that are not poisoning us, like getting the fluoride out of the toothpaste and replacing it with hydroxyapatite. Same capacity to clean and reduce plaques and kill bacteria, but none of the detriments of fluoride. So yes, that is definitely on the way, because I think that we have just become such an industrialized society that people just unfortunately don't know that you can make some of these choices. You know, to just you can actually clean your countertops, for example. Echo just came out with something called an Echo Go Clean, and it's a hydrogen water bottle that you put a scoop of salt in. You can use the Baja Gold salt. You put a tiny scoop of salt in there, you put the top on it, takes the water, adds hydrogen to the salt ions, and makes something called hypochloric acid. You can spray this on your skin harmlessly, but it will clean your countertops. It will cut grease. It actually is 100 times more virucidal than bleach, and it is harmless to human beings. And you just refill the bottle over and over and over again.
Is that back on their website? Because you had talked about that way back when we did the fast challenge, and it hadn't been on their website, because I was going to grab one of those.
Yes,
they got them back
on the website now. In fact, all you guys should be using that. And once you buy it once, you just fill it with water and salt. You'll never buy like, you know, bleach.
That would be awesome.
Countertop wipes. You'll save so much money on just all that nonsense, the Windexes and everything else. You can use it all over the place. It's great for pets. It's safe for kids. And if you got kids that put their hands all over countertops and surfaces, when you're using bleach and Clorox and bromides, things are terrible for them, and you don't need it. If you can be
Right,
on
yeah.
time from virucidal.
Yeah. Yeah. And one other thing quick, RO water, I rent. So I didn't put in a water system. And where I moved to, I lived in Portland, Oregon, where they don't have any fluoride in any of the water. And then I moved over the bridge into Vancouver, and now there's fluoride. So I bought the blue BLUVAUA. It's a countertop RO system. And I'm really liking that for people for options. Maybe you could look
Great.
at that.
I will.
You do waste some water, but anyway. But thank you so
Okay.
much. I appreciate
You're
your
welcome.
time. I appreciate
All
it.
right.
Take care.
Have a great day. And then I'll take a couple more questions too. And thank you guys for staying on this whole time. Hey, man.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, cool. I know you've been talking a lot about this lateral shift that you're going to be doing. I'm just wondering what kind of platform that you'll be putting that content out on, and kind of where to look for that.
So I'm going to put it on Instagram, and I'm also going to do it just for the rule breakfast. A lot of the lateral shifts I'm just going to do for you guys because I really want to build and educate this community the most, because I feel like you guys are part of my voice. And so you'll start to see that content coming into the rule breakfast. In fact, my phone crew right there is waiting for me to get off of this call, and we're going to start filming.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I figure it's
awesome.
the best kind of content, just to show people how to shift these things in their life at no cost.
Yeah, and I know, and
Additional.
I'm really thankful for all the stuff you put out there. You put out a lot of content, and I'm trying to keep up with everything. I feel like I need to quit my job and start writing.
Just watch it full time.
Yeah. But one other thing I wanted to ask about cold plunges. I know that there's a recommended temperature you want to be around. What would you say is there too cold where the
Yes.
benefit kind of goes away? Because
Yes.
I bought an inflatable one online, and just outside Toronto, it gets a little cold up here. And I think the water was when I checked, I think it was 32 this morning.
Okay, but that's below solid ice. But it can be 32 degrees in the air, but not 32 degrees in the water. Unless you're saying Celsius. But the idea with cold plunging is that there's no evidence that colder is better or longer is better. Remember, we are trying to cold shock the body, not cold adapt the body. We're not trying to become Eskimos. We're trying to cold shock the body. And so if we keep the cold plunge between 48 and 50 degrees, 3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum. That is amazing. So 3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum, 48 to 50 degrees. That is the absolute sweet spot.
Okay, perfect. And just lastly, just be really quick. I am just waiting on the results from the blood test and genetic test that I did with you guys. And I just did it like a week or two ago, so I know it's still going to be a while. I know you often say you don't like supplementing for the sake of supplementing.
Yes.
But while I'm waiting to get the recommendations, is there like general supplements, like, I know you've mentioned methylated multivitamins, or is there general things that I could take that, work for everyone despite what their specific?
Yes. Are you in the States?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So then, so if you can't get mine, you can go look at Pure Encapsulations. And I like their Pure Ultra Multi. And then you can also look at Thorne and their methylated multivitamin line. Both are amazing. So either, and you should be able to get both of those in Canada or outside of the US, and they're both great supplement brands.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Gary.
Awesome, man. All right, Anna, and I'll take one other question after you. Hi, Anna. Oh, not Anna. Doesn't look like an Anna. Eric. How you doing, Eric?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, brother.
Good. 2 quick questions and a tip.
Okay.
So where we are right now, the sun is setting, and I'm sure it's not the same because it's never come up, but a sunset looks a whole lot like a sunrise.
Mhm.
You get the same or similar benefits from like first light at sunset or not?
That is a great question. I am aware that as it crests the horizon, there's no UVA, no UVB, and high doses of blue light. I'd actually have to research the sunset, because there is a different, the light is less bright, but that's a great question. That's actually something I don't know. You may actually be able to get similar benefits, 45 minutes prior to it completely setting, but I'm not sure if the UVA UVB has to do with the air index in the afternoon or not. So that's a great.
Yeah, just after it sets, it kind of looks like just before it rises, and sometimes in the morning, because of the way the sunrise time shifts, getting kids off to school and whatnot, it's hard to catch it. But secondly, a tip on grounding. I know a lot of folks who live in cold weather climates struggle with grounding. A little thing I found is if you take it sounds silly, but if you take a gallon jug and just fill it with really hot tap water, pour it on the ground, and then step on it, your feet aren't cold at all. So it sounds silly, but it really helps.
There you go.
And
that is a great tip. I fortunately do not have to deal with that here in Miami.
Not all of us live in Miami, sir.
That is awesome.
And the last thing is that just a comparison real quick, like a high quality PEMF mat versus grounding comparison.
Grounding is a great way to do it, and it's free. All right. So I always like to tell people what is the least expensive way to incorporate that healthy practice into your life. I use a Pure Wave PEMF mat. I think the link is on my Instagram. I sleep on it every night. It's $5,000, so it's a big commitment. And I'm not expecting anyone to spend $5,000 on a PEMF mat. So you can touch the surface of the earth and get, relatively the same benefit as you can in 3 to 6 minutes of grounding that you can sleeping on a PEMF mat. I never liked the solution to be optimal health that you have to spend $5,000, right? I mean, God gave us most of those solutions all around us, so that's the best place to get it. But weather, time, modern day life sometimes get in the way, and if I would spend it on that before I spent it, on something more frivolous.
So you bring up something else. If you do grounding, say 3 to 6 minutes or whatever, that causes your cells, as you described, to polarize and separate. How long do they stay that way before they start clumping again?
About 24 hours.
Oh, good. Okay. So once a day is good.
Yeah, once a day is great. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
On dark field microscopy, so you can prove it. All right. Awesome, guys. All right, I'll take one more question, man, because I know you've been waiting a while there. We went.
Hello.
Hi, iPhone Paul Hardy.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing awesome, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have a question for you. I noticed a few years back when I get up and get in the mirror, I'd noticed that I had some kind of like red blotches on the sides of my neck. I thought maybe it was an age-related deal. Doctors really can't figure it out. It's just kind of there. I noticed it actually in some of your interviews that you actually have kind of the same thing going on, like a little redness on the side of your neck. So I was just curious if you have any input on that.
Yes, it's called poikiloderma of Savant. I know it's a mouthful. It's called poikiloderma of Savant, and poikiloderma of Savant is actually sun damage. So in my case, I was I was a lifeguard when I was like 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I used to sit out on that stand, no sunscreen, and just got fried in this area right here. So yeah, sometimes the camera really picks it up. You can even see like the lines on your neck. And sometimes it can get really pronounced, like kind of when people drink red wine. It's harmless. It is damage to your skin. And it's petechiae, the red vessels, in the top of the skin have been damaged, but that's what it's called. It's called poikiloderma SAVAT. And it's a harmless condition, but you can look it up and you'll think that the articles that were written about it were written for you, because you can actually see that. So sometimes the camera picks it up. You'll find it's worse on some days and worse on others, like especially when you get hot and flush, it kind of has a tendency to come out. And supposedly there are laser treatments that can actually, you can do that can actually knock down the intensity of that redness, but that's what it's called.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I think you hit it right on the head there, because it's exactly what you described. You can actually see like the definition of it. So thank you, Gary, and looking forward to the next meetup.
Awesome, man. And thank you guys so much, Rule Breakers. I love these. That's why, usually I only set them for an hour and I always go an hour and a half, 2 hours, but I really enjoy this time with you guys. I know my team's going to set the next one for us. I'm actually going to go in and shoot some I'm going to go in and shoot some shorts and some of these lateral shifts and start pushing them out to the Rule Breakfast community. So if you guys have kids and they like to eat things like Doritos and Cheetos and cookies, I'm going to give you some great alternatives that you can get at every grocery store in America. They're same price, and they're going to completely change their nutritional profile. I promise you, once you get your kids actually eating whole foods and not eating so much processed food, their taste profile will change, and you won't be fighting, like a salmon upstream to try to get them to eat well. Guys, we're gonna have a cold plunge challenge coming this coming month. So I know a lot of you guys did the breathwork challenge with me. You also did the water fasting challenge with me. And so if you want to stay on the challenge bandwagon, we're going to do a cold plunge challenge. I'm working on getting a $99 cold plunge for people that don't have one. If you don't want to spend $99, you can do it in a cold shower. We're going to talk all about the benefits, the temperature, how to do it, and we're going to do it together. But there's one rule: no nudity on the if you're doing the cold shower challenge, just put a pair of shorts on, for the love of God. I've made that mistake before, and it was like an OnlyFans rally. So we're going to be discreet.